As for this Friday's edition of Alaska Weather, I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist at the National Weather Service, hosting today's show on the 17th day of September 2021. Up first, hazardous weather graphics, no watches, warnings, or advisories out anywhere around the state tonight, tomorrow, and probably through the weekend. Well, it looks at this point in time anyway. So going right to satellite imagery, you can see some clouds over the southeast interior, more clouds moving from west to east, couple of batches of moisture there up along the north slope and the Arctic coast, and then showers over the southeast coast and clouds as well, and then a bigger storm out over the western Aleutians, spreading wind and rain into the western and central Aleutians eastward to mostly Adak, seeing some pretty good rain this afternoon with gusty southeast winds. Otherwise, a few showers dropping across the Pribilofs, along with some clearing periods there, as that disturbance drops on off to the southeast, and then higher clouds will be moving in shortly, outer edges of that cirrus shield associated with that big storm farther to the southwest. Otherwise, not much going on over south central Alaska. Showers more or less diminishing, kind of building up with an upper disturbance approaching the western Alaska range. Get a little bit of an enhancement of some shower activity there. But generally light precipitation amounts out to the west there. Some showers on the Alaska Peninsula, 0.06 of an inch at Cold Bay, about 0.05 fell at St. George Island. So pretty light there. And then Tin City, some moisture dropping down into the Bering Strait, brought 0.05 of an inch of precipitation to that location. And a little over 1/10 up there in the central Arctic coast, falling in the form of both rain and snow, the lower elevations. And a little bit heavier rainfall occurring over the panhandle there with, Hoona picked up about 1/4 of an inch, while Petersburg had about 0.3 of an inch of precipitation, and Ketchikan about 0.12, and then most everywhere else had lighter amounts than that. Otherwise, you can see bands of moisture there moving slowly eastward along the north slope and the Arctic coast. Some of that south of the Brooks Range, but not much in the way of any significant moisture with that. And some clearing over the central interior today as well as south central Alaska, Susitna Valley, Cook Inlet, Kenai Peninsula, and the central Copper River Basin. Prince William Sound seeing a little bit of sunshine during the day today, as well as up in the Fairbanks area westward down to Nenana and over toward Tanana, also up in the Yukon Flats. Otherwise, some lingering showers along the Alaska Range today. And you can see moisture up there over the north slope, couple of troughs, a little bit stronger one coming now, beginning to approach the western Arctic coast. In fact, Atchison seeing winds gusting up to 36 miles an hour this afternoon with rain and snow there, with west-southwest winds blowing there. And as that moves through, then that'll diminish, and then another system comes in later on tomorrow. Otherwise, scattered showers again across the southwest interior, especially along the Bering Sea side of the Alaska Peninsula, and then the rain and wind with that system out over the western Aleutians, and areas of rain and showers over the Panhandle starting to diminish slowly with sunshine occurring over the eastern interior and areas. For tonight, areas of rain and snow, eastern Arctic coast, eastern north slope, slowly moving eastward, and another round coming in with another trough bringing rain or snow into the western Arctic coast, maybe even into the Noatak Valley there, western Brooks Range, any elevation at all, and that would be in the form of snow. Say maybe even 500 feet above sea level and up would be looking at snow there. And isolated showers along the Nulato Hills there in eastern Norton Sound, but that's about it. High pressure really taking over the western southwest part of the state, increasing with the building pressures out there and lingering trough in the Gulf there, tightening gradient, gusty winds through the passes of the western Alaska Range. In fact, looking at gale force winds later tonight and tomorrow for Kamishak Bay and the Barren Islands out of the west and northwest. there. So pretty breezy across Kodiak Island, especially later tonight and to start the day tomorrow. You can see the front spreads rain and moderate amounts of rain and increasing winds to the Fox Islands tonight, and even stronger winds and a tighter gradient behind that system for the area around Kiska to Amchitka. But you're kind of in a lighter wind pattern there for Adak and Atka in close to the low center. So seeing what that develops into tomorrow, then the winds shift over toward Adak out of the north, getting pretty gusty from the north, possible gale force gusts. Wind and rain, Fox Islands till the front moves through. So winds will be diminishing Nikolsky in the afternoon, but on the increase of the Alaska Peninsula, falls past to Cold Bay, maybe even Nelson Lagoon. But mostly sunny skies in store for southern Alaska. High pressure builds into the north central interior there around the Denali Park area or around the central Tanana Valley. So it looks mostly sunny and dry. Nice day tomorrow for much of southern Alaska. A few lingering showers, weak trough there, slowly ending from west to east over the Copper River Basin, eastern interior, eastern Alaska range mainly. Then more moisture, stronger system moves on to the western Arctic coast with rain along associated with a warm front changing to snow. And then behind the cold front, snow with a colder shot of air coming down with that. And the southeast coast still in the influence of low pressure lingering around the Queen Charlotte Islands, so still a chance of showers, mainly over the central southern southeast coast. Hopefully a dry day, maybe some clearing up to the north with just a shower or two around, mainly mountainous terrain. And the outlook for the first day or the second day of the weekend, Sunday, pretty good system just grazing the Alaska Peninsula and starting to show its influence to Kodiak Island, especially the southern areas. So increasing chances of rain, southern Kodiak Island in the afternoon, and then pretty gusty north and northeast winds for the Alaska Peninsula with a chance of rain mainly on the Pacific side of the peninsula there, and then just scattered showers and breezy for the Fox Islands. Otherwise, the Bering Sea, western central Aleutian, is looking really good with high pressure. Cold front brings rain and snow down to St. Lawrence Island, areas of light rain and snow into Norton Sound, the Lotto Hills, and then up along the frontal boundary there, west and northwest of the front, looking at snow. And another reinforcing shot of cold air and moisture coming onto the western Arctic coast with that next trough swinging around that 998 millibar low there. So look for snow to increase in the afternoon for the western Arctic coast and into the western Brooks Range, the long mountain areas, some of that even getting down into the northern Seward Peninsula. And the southeast coast, another trough keeps it mostly cloudy and showery with looks like the heaviest showers occurring over the southern areas. Lows tonight down that way in the 40s, lower to mid 40s, upper 30s to lower 40s, south central Alaska, 30 to 35, Kuskokwim Valley, Bristol Bay area. Same thing for the Copper River Basin, mid 40s Kodiak Island. Highs tomorrow, mid 40s west of the Alaska Range, otherwise 50 to 55 everywhere else, except upper 50s for the Panhandle. Lows much colder on, let's see, for the day Sunday morning. Mid-20s Copper River Basin, otherwise in the upper 20s to mid-30s across southern Alaska, and upper 30s Kodiak Island. Staying in the 40s, though, for the Panhandle, followed by highs in the 50s everywhere. And then up to the north, lows 25 to 35, about sums it up. Warmer out toward the Seward Peninsula till near 40 for St. Lawrence Island. Highs in the 30s Arctic coast north slope to the Brooks Range, 40s south of the mountains. Lows in the 20s. Brooks Range to the Arctic coast, 25 to 35, central interior, warmer out toward the west, highs around 50, otherwise in the 40s, and out west, 40s for your lows, and 50s for your highs.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Baseline weather graphics Saturday morning. IFR, eastern Arctic coast, north slope, Brooks Range, and then some VFR, and then the next batch of IFR with the system coming down out of the northwest from the Arctic coast there, and Noatak Valley, all of the northwest coast, all the way down to St. Lawrence Island. VFR, northern Bering Sea, and on into Bristol Bay, into the southwest interior, and then bigger area of IFR there coming in over the Aleutians, and marginal VFR staying south of the Pribilofs through the day, but good VFR Kodiak Island. Early marginal VFR possible along the Alaska Range, eastern interior, southern Panhandle, possible IFR to start. And then for the afternoon, VFR southern Alaska, eastern interior, all the way up to maybe the eastern Arctic coast or in a small area with, bracketed by IFR. IFR, Seward Peninsula, most of Norton Sound, St. Lawrence Island, and the northern Yukon Delta coast, and from roughly Hooper Bay or so down, it's VFR into Bristol Bay, Kodiak Island, and the Pribilofs stay VFR throughout the day, and IFR from just east of Amchitka across the Fox Islands to the Alaska Peninsula, VFR for the Panhandle and the North Gulf Coast. Sunday morning, Marshall VFR for the southeast coast, all the way up to Yakutat, IFR in the central and south coast, and IFR Alaska Peninsula, eastern Aleutians, and then mostly IFR in bands there, northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, across Norton Sound, right up into the interior, especially the southern slopes of the Brooks Range, another band up there, central eastern Arctic coast, southwestward to the Noatak Valley, Kivalina, maybe Kotzebue to Shishmaref on up toward Point Hope. And then for the afternoon, much better. VFR, Bering Sea, VFR the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, Marshall VFR. IFR sliding up the southern and east side of Kodiak Island, with Frontenac Island into the southern interior, all the way up to and north of the Alaska Range, VFR. Marshall VFR from about Cape St. Elias on down, covering all of the Panhandle to Dixon entrance. Passes IFR to start, VFR to end, kind of a changing pattern there with westerly flow and several systems moving through. So kind of IFR also for Adigan, and then becoming VFR, and then tomorrow evening, maybe trending back toward IFR again. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, good VFR, either approach throughout the day. Same forecast for rainy VFR, Eastern Alaska Range looking good, both Isabel and Mentasta, VFR. And for Tanita, good flying there too, VFR east and west, and Portage, VFR. Maybe a little marginal to start early possibly, but generally it's going to be a VFR type day there for the day Saturday. Chilkoot and White looking good with VFR. Surface freezing levels here at the surface all the way down to the Kuskokwim Valley there, and 2,000 feet down to the north coast of Bristol Bay, 4,000 feet down across the Alaska Peninsula, and 4,000 to 6,000 feet out over the Bering Sea, but 10,000 feet all the way up to the east central Aleutians there. And looking at icing, system there spreading areas of considerable moderate rime icing at the Fox Islands, staying south of the Pribilofs. Otherwise, pretty much icing free, southern half of Alaska, the Panhandle, southwest coast, northern Bering Sea, and then some areas of elevated icing with the disturbances. They're passing from west to east, more or less, and to the southeast there. Could spread some icing threats all the way down to the Yukon River. Best chance it'll be on the eastern Arctic coast and also over toward the east side. Jet stream, upper level lows there, one near the Arctic coast, another one farther back to the northwest toward Wrangell Island. So westerly flow south side of those systems there, 80 to 85 knots into the northwest interior, turns north-northwest, about 60 knots down across the Cook Inlet. Stronger jet, east-southeast of Kodiak. Otherwise, trough out over the Aleutians, another one, a weaker one, over the southern southeast coast. And at 9,000 feet, we've got west-northwest, 30 to 45 knots there into the central interior, about 25 for the North Slope and Arctic coast. Lighter variable winds there, northern Bering Sea, central Bering there, high pressure near the southwest coast. Light winds into the Panhandle, Gulf of Alaska, then 30 to 60 knot winds around that low just east of Atka Island. Same thing at 3,000 feet, 55 knot winds out of the east, just north of the east central Aleutians, coming around right across Adak at about 55 to 60 knots there. Otherwise, southwest, 25 to 30, west central interior. Look for isolated moderate chop there, surface 5,000 feet, St. Lawrence Island, Seward Peninsula, into the Kobuk Valley. Heavier turbulence over the Aleutians.
Floating hundreds of miles from Earth, astronauts get a unique perspective of our planet. While they might recognize landmarks, space is the only place they can see the very edge of our planet's atmosphere.
From orbit, particularly looking at the horizon, did bring to mind how thin the atmosphere is. It's like an onion skin around this great big ball of the Earth.
This uppermost layer of Earth's atmosphere, the ionosphere, also overlaps with the very beginning of space. It's the job of NASA's new mission, GOLD, the global-scale observations of the Limon-Disk instrument, to study this region, a region that isn't just for astronauts to explore, but that affects humans every day down on the ground. For one thing, this layer of the upper atmosphere helps protect us from harmful radiation and energy emanating from the sun. But in our modern society, it does so much more. It affects the smartphone that sits in your pocket and the radio waves that guide our airplanes. The ionosphere is a crucial layer of the atmosphere through which our communications and GPS signals travel. And when this region changes, it impacts those communication signals. Changes can occur above this region from the sun's activity, also known as space weather. Changes can also occur below from Earth's weather, such as hurricanes and wind patterns. Gold connects the dots between how space weather and Earth's weather shape the upper reaches of the atmosphere. But this region isn't easy to study. The ionosphere spans roughly 60 to 400 miles from Earth's surface, which is too high for aircraft and scientific balloons, and the lower regions are too low to easily study with satellites. What are attainable, however, are the swaths of red and green light shining out from the upper atmosphere. Formed when the sun's rays hit atmospheric molecules, this light, named airglow, comes from green and red bands of glowing gas. Some of the airglow is invisible to our eyes, shining in infrared and ultraviolet light, which can only be seen with scientific instrumentation. Taking advantage of our planet's natural glow is gold. The gold instrument, which is about the size of a mini-fridge, is hitching a ride on a commercial communication satellite, SES-14. The satellite's orbit lies 22,000 miles above Earth, where it can record images in ultraviolet light to monitor changes in airglow across the globe. These images give information on the temperature, density, and composition of particles in the upper atmosphere. Gold collects these observations faster than any mission has ever done before. It captures an image of Earth's entire disk every 30 minutes, allowing scientists to see how the upper atmosphere evolves throughout the day. Gold joins a host of missions studying the very nature of space, around Earth, the Sun, and planets. As NASA ventures farther and farther from home, knowing the nature of space itself is crucial for our journey to understand our solar system and beyond.
There's a new class of chemical compounds impacting the Earth's ozone layer and raising concerns among some scientists. But a new NASA analysis indicates stratospheric ozone could actually be impacted more by climate change and the continued release of already banned chemicals. The Earth's ozone hole is showing signs of recovery, decades after the landmark agreement called the Montreal Protocol that banned many chemical compounds harmful to the ozone layer.
So we know the Montreal Protocol was a huge success. This was signed in the late 1980s when scientists and policymakers from around the world gathered together to try to save the ozone layer.
The chemicals they regulated persist in the atmosphere for many decades. They thin the ozone layer and they create a seasonal hole over Antarctica. They basically take away part of our planet's natural sunscreen, and that increases the risk of skin cancer and damage to plants.
Scientists have projected the ozone hole could disappear almost completely by about 2075, but several factors could delay that recovery.
There are some industrial compounds that are not banned by the Montreal Protocol, but as they enter the atmosphere, they will also hurt the ozone layer.
But the unregulated compounds have a short lifespan in the atmosphere, unlike the chlorofluorocarbons that were originally regulated. So they have a short-lived impact on ozone, and we don't think they'll delay recovery by more than a few years.
We projected by 2050, more than half of the ozone-depleting compounds in the atmosphere will come from long-lived substances banned by the protocol.
Because these compounds stay in the air for such a long time, compared to the unregulated, short-lived compounds, they will have a disproportionate and lingering impact on ozone. So any non-compliance with the protocol can have significant consequences.
And the really big uncertainty in ozone layer recovery is climate change. There are many naturally produced ozone-depleting substances that are emitted by the oceans. And as the oceans continue to warm due to climate change, those emissions will increase, and that will further delay ozone recovery.
Scientists want to better understand how climate change will affect ozone recovery.
This is a hard problem. As a scientific community, we need to work on this major issue. We now have a powerful new tool, to simulate atmosphere and its interaction with land and ocean to study this issue. And that's what we're going to do.
How can you see the atmosphere? The answer is blowing in the wind. Tiny particles known as aerosols are carried by the air around the globe. This visualization uses data from NASA satellites combined with our knowledge of physics and meteorology to track 3 aerosols: dust, smoke, and sea salt. Sea salt, shown here in blue, is picked up by winds passing over the ocean. As tropical storms and hurricanes form, the salt particles are concentrated into the spiraling shape we all recognize. With their movements, we can follow the formation of Hurricane Irma and see the dust from the Sahara, shown in tan, get washed out of the storm center by the rain. Advances in computing speed allow scientists to include more details of these physical processes in their simulations of how the aerosols interact with the storm systems. The increased resolution of the computer simulation is apparent in fine details like the hurricane bands spiraling counterclockwise. Computer simulations let us see how different processes fit together and evolve as a system. By using mathematical models to represent nature, we can separate the system into component parts and better understand the underlying physics of each. Today's research improves next year's weather forecasting ability. Hurricane Ophelia was very unusual. It headed northeast, pulling in Saharan dust and smoke from wildfires in Portugal, carrying both to Ireland and the UK. This aerosol interaction was very different from other storms of the season. As computing speed continues to increase, scientists will be able to bring more scientific details into the simulations, giving us a deeper understanding of our home planet.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Showing main ice fields well off the Arctic coast up to the north, and still expected for the Chukchi Sea for the ice to advance southeastward anywhere from 25 plus nautical miles through Monday, with the Beaufort Sea they're not expecting to vary too much. And from there we'll go on to the coastal water forecasts for the southeast coast. On the south coast, northeasterlies 15 to 20 knots, and the north coast, northwest at 15 knots. Seas on the south coast 8 feet, 7 feet in the north coast. Lynn Canal, Glacier Bay, northern inner channels north at 20. Central and southern inner channels pretty light and variable to southeast at about 10, with seas as high as 6 feet for Clarence Strait. And then for Sunday, small craft advisories, south coast, south winds 25 knots, 8-foot seas. Small craft advisories on the north coast, southeast winds 25 knots, southeast 15 for Lynn Canal, and southeast at 10 for Stevens Passage. Clarence Strait, looking at a southwest breeze at 10 knots with seas 3 feet. Prince William Sound for tomorrow, northwest winds 25 knots, higher gusts there out of the especially, say, Passage Canal and other bays, but sustained 25 knots, seas 4 feet, and small craft advisories for the western North Gulf Coast, north winds 30 knots. Cook Inlet, northwesterlies 20 to 25 knots, 4-foot seas, and then good gales, Kamishak Bay, northwest, sustained 40 knots, especially early in the day, but these winds will be coming down in the afternoon. Gale warnings also out for the Barren Islands, northwest at 35. And then on Sunday, winds swinging around to the east and increasing to 25 knots for Kamishak Bay, the Barren Islands, and the North Gulf Coast. Middleton Island zone increasing up to 30 knots with 11-foot seas. Otherwise, Prince William Sound, east winds at 20, seas 4 feet. Cook Inlet, northeast winds 15 knots with 3-foot seas. Kodiak Island tomorrow, northwesterlies 30 to 35 knots, strongest in the morning, diminishing into the afternoon toward evening. And also gales northwest 35 knots that connect to Castle Cape, and that's going to be early. They'll be coming down below that in the afternoon. And the Alaska Peninsula, winds east-southeast 25 to 35 knots, strongest on the Pacific side of the peninsula. Bristol Bay north at 15, seas 5 feet. For Sunday, Alaska Peninsula, northeast winds 30 knots. And Bristol Bay, northeast 25 knots. East-northeast winds at 30 knots for Kodiak Island, with seas running 9 to 10 feet. And then for the Aleutians, gale warnings for Unalaska Island, east-southeast 35 knots and southeast on average winds 40 knots for Unmac Island, seas anywhere from 10 to 15 feet out there. Central Aleutians, gale warnings, Bering Sea side out of the east at 35 knots, Pacific side northwest 35 knots, and then 40 knot winds from the north for Amchitka Island, and minimum gales Kiska to Shemya for northerlies at 35. Sunday, winds diminished, turn southwest there from Shemya to Kiska down to 20 knots, and northwest 25 knots Amchitka Island. North to northwesterlies 30 to 35 knots, Adak and Atka. And Fox Islands northerlies 30 to 40 knots with 12 to 16 foot seas. Southwest coast south of Nunivak Island, winds east at 10. Yukon Delta coast west at 15. And St. Lawrence Island west at 20, southwest 20 for Norton Sound. Pribilofs, east winds coming up to 25 knots, seas building to 7 feet. And for Sunday, north 25 for the Pribilof, same thing for the southwest coast, 20 to 25 knot winds out of the north, strong to south of Nunivak Island. And north 25 for St. Lawrence Island with 5 foot seas. Up along the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, kind of variable and light wind pattern tomorrow at 10 knots or less with slight seas. Central coast south at 20, west side northwest 15 from actually call it Point Lay all the way down to Wales. And then for Sunday, we've got 25 knot westerlies, Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, otherwise northwest at 20 from Wales to Cape Thompson. Western Central Arctic coast, west at 20, seas 4 to 7 feet, highest on the west side there, and then 15 knot winds for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast with 3 foot seas. And look for rain and snow and surges coming onto the Arctic coast and then moving eastward throughout the night tonight and tomorrow and even into Sunday. And then showers, basically dry over the interior, but lingering showers along the Alaska Range, Talkeetnas, maybe the Chugach, eastward to the Talkeetnas, and chance of rain, southern panhandle drying out in the north. Gale force winds, rain coming into the eastern Aleutians and covering actually much of the Aleutians out towards Shemya. And that's all I've got time for. Good night.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.